Hello everyone. I want to take you on a little journey today. I'm at the cemetery of where I had to bury my sons, all three of them, which we as parents always think that our children would bury us. But with me, it was a whole different story. Come with me. The first time I came to this cemetery, actually I haven't been here in a while. The first time I came to this cemetery was for my oldest son, R.E.L.I.F. He's at a party of 70 people on May 11th, 2001, at a memorial party for another youngster that lived in the city of Duquesne that died several years before him on a drive-by shooting. Nevertheless, my son, Harry Ellis Ray Coward, went to the memorial party and he was there for 20 minutes and his life began to end after being shot 10 times with 70 people there. And I stand here today, 16 years later, and still I have no answers. There haven't been any arrests. My son's last words was, "Tell my mom I love her," and that take me through my sad times, my happy times, and definitely it is one of my motivators of going on. As we travel this cemetery, many people here, children, grew up and now lay to rest here. All gun violence. Now, as I journey through this cemetery where all three of my sons are laid at rest, I would like to introduce to you where my second son, James Philip Jones. James was born on July 11th, 1988, my mother's birthday. And now, 5 months later, after his 17th birthday, once again, murder. He became a murder victim. That was my second son, 2 weeks before Christmas. James was 17 years old. Thank God his murder have been solved. Now, come along with me and I'll take you to my last son, my youngest son, and also my third son that became a murder victim. Don Aaron Jones. May the 1st, 1992, he was born. April the 16th, 2012, he was shot with 3 guns in the city of Duquesne on the same street as his brother, Harry Ellis Ray, was shot down 11 years prior to that. Harry was shot on Ferndale and 5th, and Dawn was shot on Ferndale and the other side of Ferndale, which I think is Catherine in Duquesne City. Still to this day, now we faced with 3 years later, and I still don't have any closure. Actually, it's been 5 years. This year will make 5 years. April 16th will be 5 years. And I have no closure. And he was walking among friends, so-called friends that he grew up with. and he was shot with walking one block with them on April the 16th. Now, I have no more sons for the street to kill. And hello, folks. Thanks for joining in to our afternoon special. And it is April the 17th. It is one day after my third murdered son's death. It is, he was murdered on April the 16th, 2012. My name is Luanna Coward, and I'm the producer and the director of the show. And at this time, I would like to also introduce to you the co-director and producer of the show.
Welcome, everybody, for tuning in to R.E.L.I.F TV talk show. R.E.L.I.F, of course, stands for recognizing every lingering inward emotional feeling. And, you know, I guess we had a somber beginning. I mean, just reliving what we just seen there.
Yes.
I've never seen nothing like it, and I'm sure pretty much many of you have never seen anything like it, but I'm sure a lot of you have seen some of it, but not to the magnitude of 3 grave sites just feet away from each other. So it was a really tough opening today, but I want to thank you for sharing that. I know that was difficult, and it remains difficult.
Yeah, Valerie, especially at this time of the year, that it is everyone who lost someone to violence. When the anniversary time come around, well, for me, I just want to speak for myself, and I think I could speak for millions of others that's in our journey. That when that anniversary time come around, you begin to feel not unlike yourself, because you're dealing with all these emotions and everything is reviewing itself back into your brain. It's like you live it for myself, and I believe others would agree, we relive that. For me, it is every birthday of my sons and every day, the dates when they were murdered. Is that the same? Do you have that?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's a subconsciousness that happens. You know, the first few years, you know, of course, you immediately recognize those dates coming up because, you know, you've never been through anything like that. Then after a few years, when you try to adjust to it, you say, okay, you know, well, today I'm going to go to work today, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. But then you're acting different, you know, your expression, different emotions, and people are like, you okay? You all right? Yeah, I'm fine. But then you realize, you turn around and like, oh, well, you know, 16 years ago, this was the day my son was killed, or my daughter was buried, or, you know, I lost this person or that person. So subconsciously, you really do still feel it, even though you try to, you know, move forward with your life. It never goes away.
That's why I personally believe that it's not, for me, I don't think that we ever will get over it. At least I won't never forget my sons who I birthed in this world.
And you shouldn't.
And I feel that I just learned how to focus every day to make it through that day. God helped me to channel my grief, to be able to kind of focus. And also, when we help others, we also help our own grief.
We do.
Yes,
we
I
do.
found that out along this journey, you know.
Yeah.
And I was very emotional yesterday after 5 years. You know, it's been 16 years for my first son's murder, R.E.L.I.F, and no answers. He's at a party of 70 people, shot 10 times, and no answers to this day. No arrests been made, and also yesterday was pretty hard for me, and it don't get easier. You would think, people think in general that it gets easier as the years go. Sometimes it seems it get harder because it's like all these years, you know, especially with no answer to a murder. It really, which I don't believe the closure will stop any kind of grief feelings, but it have to probably help a little, like with your story.
Yeah, you know, it was amazing to me because I had no concept that my son's murder would not be solved. Like, you know, he was killed, we're going to find out who did it. You know, that's where my mind went immediately. But in this journey, I did not realize how many people did not get that closure and what they go through with that additional piece, you know, because just all I say that it was criminal justice closure. You know, it's not grief closure. Paperwork. It's not pain closure. Paperwork. It's not tear closure. So, we had the final loss of our loved one, and that's why this show is so important today, because we want to talk about people that, was close to that.
Yes.
If not there, but was brought back. And
that's a blessing in itself, because we just sat here sometime, I don't know if everybody would agree to this in TV land or Facebook land, but as a mother who lost her sons all the same way, within 11 years' time, all of my sons was wiped off of this earth. And I would have been so grateful if I had to hand feed them every day, if they were paralyzed. I would have been, or they only had 2 legs, you know what I mean, and whatever, not 2 legs.
One leg,
or
lost a limb
but I'm
or
just saying,
something,
anyway, if their life if they would have been able to survive from these senseless murders what they encountered, and but that's one of the reasons why today we're flipping the script here on the Relief Talk Show. As we said when we started, that we're going to be covering a lot of areas, and one of the areas, beginning on this Easter Monday afternoon, we are covering near-death experience, because these people, the guests that we have today, they've been given another chance of life. And with nothing more, I would like to...
Real quick, I do want to share before we go to our
Yes.
guests, that we are live on Facebook. So if you have a comment, if you want to share something, if you just, feel like you have something that you would like to say, please, go on your Facebook page, or go to PCTV or Pittsburgh Community Television, go on live. We're on live. Just bring your comments to us, and if you have an idea for a future show, please join us on our Facebook Live presentation.
And also, Valerie, if they out there in Facebook land, anyone out there that had a near-death experience and would like to share theirs, they can connect and come on this live journey with us today.
Absolutely.
So we have 2 very special guests here today with us, and I'm going to let Miss Valerie Dixon introduce the 2 special guests what we have today.
Well, we want to first of all welcome you guys to come to the show. We know it's a heavy topic, and we want you to, be able to share whatever you would like to say. And I want you to introduce yourself to the viewing audience, let them know who you are, and you can talk about a little bit about your journey.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Alwyn Hicks. I've had a couple of near-death experiences. My first was 2008. That was when I was stabbed in the beginning of the year, and then closer to the end of the year, I was shot in my chest.
The same year?
The same year.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
What a year that was.
Definitely.
You said that was in 2000?
2008.
When you got stabbed, do you remember it?
I remember that story. I think I can recall that story more vividly than the other one.
Than the shooting? Okay.
Yeah, I was with one of my friends, and I wouldn't blame the way I was brought up, but I had ventured off from my original life, from the lifestyle that the choices that my parents made for me, and decided that I wanted to go hang out in the hood and everything like that. I wanted to say before I went on from that subject, it's a lot of times people think that kids who do gang activity, it's because it's their parents' fault. And I wanted to mention that there's nothing more than what my parents did that they could have did for me. I was raised by a police officer and a correction officer. Mm-hmm. But my parents worked long shifts. They were going for 16 hours at a time. They had to leave for a week at a time. Mm-hmm. And my brothers couldn't raise a child. My grandma couldn't raise a child. But apparently the streets could, and that's where I hung out. And so
yeah, it's environmental. A lot of people, they like to look at the person that was harmed or shot or killed and look at their lifestyle, as opposed to the person that possibly did it, but they don't, gravitate to what's the root causes of this whole picture happening, because no one just comes out the door one day out of the blue and say, I'm going to go stab somebody, or I'm going to go kill somebody, or I'm going to go get shot today. You know, that doesn't happen. There are
Or at
things
least
that
that's
causes.
not normal.
It's not normal
It's
for
not
that
normal,
to happen.
but society
you know.
at this
But
age
sometimes,
and time
yeah,
change.
and it's a
Yes.
journey that that
It's
person
crazy.
had in their life probably
Yes,
to make
yes.
those bad decisions
Yes,
too. So
yes.
people got to look back at what the root causes were. And so, you know, and we didn't want you to feel, you know, ashamed about what happened or anything like that, or, you know, your upbringing and things like that. And it's beautiful to share that you had good parents that raised you right and things like that, and things can still go awry, you know what I mean? Because you still have to go live out in the streets where maybe somebody didn't get that nurturing and growing up
Right.
and knowing the value of life. And, you know, your paths just happened to cross and stuff like that, you know? And so what we want you to kind of share too is like once you know, you had gone to the hospital. It was near death. You had gone to the hospital,
I
got
did go to-
treated.
I did.
You stayed for a while, a couple days in the hospital as well.
When I was stabbed, I was in the hospital for 5 days,
Okay.
and then I was released.
When you came to awareness of all what happened, what was your feeling? Did you feel that you almost lost your life, or you just remember this incident happened and the next minute I woke up in the hospital, and I don't remember any journey in between that?
Well, I didn't lose consciousness.
Okay.
What happened was we had myself and a friend of mine. I called her my sister. I still call her my sister. We had went to go meet her her boyfriend, who was very abusive, and he was hanging out with his friends. I had some money in my hand, and she was screaming at him out of the window, and telling him to come closer to the car. And he had screamed that he wasn't going to come. She was trying to tell him that she had contracted an STD from him. And he was like, I'm not going to come.
That was a serious message she was
Yeah,
trying to deliver.
Definitely.
intense.
And he had said, anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of my friends. And she had screamed that yeah, you gave me an STD. And he ran to the car window, and he was trying to hit her. And it was ironic because I was stabbed with my knife. It was a knife that I was carrying. And as he ran to the window, she tried to roll up the window, and she was rolling it up as fast as she could. And I was screaming at her that he's going to break the window. I was trying to start the car. He broke the window. They started fighting. I took the knife off of my waistband, trying to protect her, and he snatched it from me and stabbed me. And so,
Wow. And so then when you got stabbed and you got rushed to the hospital, you were still conscious through the whole thing?
Yeah, I was
Did you
conscious.
feel
I
like
wasn't-
you were going to die, or were you scared? Did you?
I was more scared because it wasn't as if he stabbed us and then went away. As he was fighting and stabbed me, I started the car, I put it in reverse. He fell off the car, he jumped in his car, and he started chasing us. And so we were actually running for a while. I don't know why I called my father before I called the paramedics, but I called my father. He told me to hang up and call not call 911. And the police kept asking us if there was somewhere that we could stop, where we would feel comfortable stopping, where they could meet us, but they were right behind us. And so the police had devised a plan to set up sort of like a checkpoint by the park. And they were like, when you come through the checkpoint, I want you to make a left into the park, and we'll follow them. And so it was like, I didn't feel any type of, it was like adrenaline. I don't want to die. I'm scared. I'm driving. I'm shaking. I'm nervous. It's hard for me to breathe. Trying to get to that point where.
Oh, okay. So it was a bunch of emotions,
Definitely.
including the stabbing
Definitely.
itself.
Now, a question I would like to ask, at that very moment when this encounter was happening, what was going through your mind when you seen that your knife was taken off of you and it was used to harm you? At that moment, can you remember what was going through your mind? Did you feel like, am I gonna die today? He's gonna, because hey, if you see a knife coming at you, you don't know. I mean, by the grace of God, you survived that. But a lot of people have lost their life to knives as well as guns. So if you can recall that very moment when you realized that you no longer had that knife, which you said you had got to try to kind of defend yourself and your friend or your sister, what did you feel? I mean, what do you remember? What went through your head? Do you have backflashes, or do you what would it be, post-traumatic stress? Did that disorder, did that take place after that? Like, did you replay this
Definitely.
scene in your mind?
Definitely, I replay it all the time. I think for me, like, people talk about a lot about fight or flight. I knew I was 100% positive I was going to die. I wasn't even driving in my mind trying to protect me. I was more worried about her in the passenger seat because she wasn't moving. She wasn't stabbed or anything. I don't know if it was the trauma or anything, but she didn't move the whole time. And I was more so worried about trying to save her because I had expected to die. And I had, in my mind, I felt like I've done enough in my life to where if I did die, then it was justified. And it was like karma, so to
And
say.
how old were you when that happened?
I was, Lord, I don't even know how old I am now. I was 20.
Okay.
You know,
was
I can
20.
relate
Oh my
to
God.
what she said about, I think at some point when things like that happen, well, it's different cases, but I want to share something. Years ago, I had an experience where one of my children were shot in the leg. At that time, one of my daughters was very young, and she was holding. The guy convinced her to hold some gun she had in a gym bag. I didn't even know it was in there. And the thing about it, it was my last born daughter. She's now 25, and the gun. She came. I don't know why the young boy had gave her the gun. But somehow it must have been jammed or something. So when she got in the car, and my little 2-year-old daughter was crossing over. At that time, they had those. We had, I think it was a Malibu. We had those little metal things in the seat. You know, those had them little double seats. They had a little metal strip. And by the grace of God, when let me say, she crossed out of the back, and she kind of fell down a little bit. And as soon as she lift up her head. She was lifting up her head. My daughter got and put that bag down, and the gun went off, and it was a shotgun, and it went off, and that quick it missed my daughter. You know, my daughter had just lifted up, and but it hit her in the leg. But I say all that to say this: she was like 2.5 years old at that time, and I think that even at 25, that some of that is still in her leg, but. As a mother, at that time, I remember their father, we were married, he was standing in the doorway, and I didn't know what it was went off, because I had went to get another load of clothes, and when I was coming to the door, it all like happened. I said, oh, and so I just ran to the car, and some people freeze. You know, lucky you said you just automatically put that car in reverse. Well, I think it's some kind of adrenaline start rushing, because I didn't wait for no ambulance. I didn't know where she was shot at. All I know, she was down like this. First, I thought she really was like shot in a more serious spot. But I actually had took her out the car, and I was going to run in the house to wait the ambulance. And my heart told me, no, turn around. I held her a football hold, and I just got back in that car. And I was the one. I was the service to the. I mean, it was drizzling rain. I believe I made it from Duquesne to McKeesport in about a good 4.5 minutes tops. So all I know is that I don't know where that energy came from, but all I knew, like you were saying about your friend, I had to get my daughter to the hospital. I didn't know till actually we stepped into the hospital that it was her leg. She had got shot in her leg. I thought it was her stomach, but I didn't look. And I think sometime when that happened, we just work on. It's just a certain energy.
You have we call it the 3 Fs. You either freeze, flee,
or
fight.
Yeah, okay. Well,
you know, when a traumatic event happened,
yeah,
you know, we all say things like, "Oh, if that was me, I would have so and so." You never know what you're gonna do till you're in that situation.
Exactly.
You know, and one of the 3 of those, you know, kick in. It depends on the situation. And like you said, you had already felt, and it was so heart wrenching to hear that. You felt that you did everything you done in your life anyway, and this was just you're just due and things like that, and that's a lot of the mentality that happens out here when people have hopelessness. You know what I mean? Because of the situation that our community sees itself in, and various things like that, and just you sitting here shows that it just wasn't your time, and no matter what you did in the past, you can always, as long as you're above 6 feet, you know, you have a opportunity to change your life or do the things that you really feel are important in life. And so for you feeling that the first time, I mean, like you said, both of these incidents happened in 2008. Was it some choices that you decided to make to change your life, and then your second event happened, and how hopeless did you really feel after that?
You know what? Ironically, I did not decide to change my life at all. Even after the second incident was similar. Me and one of my friends, one of my girlfriends, my sisters, were hanging out in a warehouse where her boyfriend, they processed his marijuana, and she was stealing.
Where was this at? Like, in this was before you moved to Pennsylvania?
Yeah, this was in California. We were in the mountains in California.
Oh, okay.
And we were hanging out in the warehouse, and we were supposed to be helping him package the marijuana, and she was stealing it. And I started, like, I was really, in that situation, I kind of didn't want to have anything to do with her stealing from him. I'm like, you know he's crazy. Like, if you wanted to just ask him for it, don't put us in a situation where something could happen. And she was like, nothing's going to happen. And they were dating. She was like, I'm not worried about it. I do this all the time. And he had walked behind us in the middle of our argument, and they started arguing, and they're going back and forth. And I remember when he had grabbed his gun, and as he was arguing, he had the gun in his hand, and he was talking with the gun, and then she was getting more aggressive as if she didn't feel like he would shoot. And I was trying to de-escalate the situation. And so I had kind of like walked between them to push her away from him. But as I jumped and made a sudden movement, then he shot. But thank God, I'm so thankful and so grateful for the way that I was positioned, trying to push her back.
Okay.
And went through in one side of my breast and out the other.
Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness.
Close call.
Wow.
Yeah. So
did you lose consciousness with that one, or
no? But once again, like I said, with any traumatic, you just automatically. That time I just decided I laid there. I figured, like, this is it. No one
That was your
deserves.
second near-death experience.
Yeah, no one
same
deserves
year,
to.
so you're like, okay, this definitely is my just due then.
So my question now, you were saying the first one, you didn't take heed and change your life, but I would imagine just after being introduced to you myself, I know for a fact you have changed your life after that second one. That was like, that
wasn't
made
the
you.
incident that did it.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. Actually, it wasn't that incident either. I just continued with my lifestyle. I think I had cut a lot of people off. I was more cautious, and I figured that I was smart enough now at this point, I figured I could cheat death. You can't kill me. And so for a while, then I went on with that mentality. Like,
okay.
it was kind of like superwomanish. I have this S on my chest. I'm not
Gotcha.
worried about. There's nothing you can do to hurt me. And
we see that a lot too.
yeah, and I had it was an incident that changed my life. I was fighting over some drug money, because it was always over drugs or money. And the girl threw a cup of bleach in my face, and I had lost my eyesight. I still don't have full eyesight, my full eyesight on this side. I had second and third degree chemical burns. And
It's almost three. That's three.
Yeah,
like
that's-
2.5 at
yeah.
least.
Yeah.
just about 3. And when my
Just
kids
about.
came to
Very
see me, and
much.
I couldn't see them, and it was like all the things that you take for granted when you have no eyesight. And the doctor told me I would be permanently blind. I wouldn't see again. There was no way I could make money the way that I was making money. There was no way I can do what I was doing without being able to see. And I remember praying, and it was about 3 months before I even prayed, and I was like, God, I remember you let the blind men see in the Bible. I don't know if you still do that,
Wow.
but if you can, then I'll look at life differently. And I remember as I cried,
I
and
got chills.
pus came out of my eyes, and like it wasn't even like my full vision came back immediately. It was just faint, and I could see light. And as I continued and as I cried, then it was just stronger and stronger.
That was a miracle
That's
taking
extremely
place.
powerful. I mean, that's biblical. I mean, you've hit exactly what you said.
Yes.
Has happened in the Bible. And we were at church yesterday, and being this Easter Monday.
The resurrection day was yesterday. That's why we got this program today. Yes.
Those stories, like, we're all waiting for that thing to happen, for God to give us a sign. He already did his thing. He already did what he's supposed to do for us. And, just hearing what you just said was the true, real awakening that you really needed for that change.
Yes.
And that deaf experience, not just not just talking about going through the actual journey of that life, the death to life, back to life journey, but that journey of life that you went through is a true awakening. And as we said, this is a live Facebook show. So, you know, we want you to tune in, chime in if you have something to share. We're going to actually share our second story, but we actually have some little guests here, and our little guest, he has to do something that kids do in the middle of anything. Life is just the normal life for the young people, and so I'm just going to excuse myself for a moment. But Luann, I want you to finish introducing our second guest so he could share and chime in too, and you could share.
Yeah,
you could kick in and share whenever you want to. Don't think, you know, we just got to tune you in when it's time for you to talk. If you feel something that inspires you to say something, please just tune in. And you guys tune in as well.
Before we go to our next guest, I was just to myself, God never seemed to amaze me because he does things the way so that we can really apply it to our life and to our hearts, our minds, our spirit. And it was April the 6th. I was taking my mother to the doctor, and I decided to take her in my vehicle in a brand new car. And I had told Valerie several weeks before that, I told her, I said, our next show, I would like to do a segment on near-death experiences. Okay, and well, coming from the doctor on April the 6th, I was in a near-death experience. And not only myself, my mother, my 95-year-old mother was in a car, 3-year-old granddaughter, and also my 25-year-old daughter, which the car actually hit on my mother's side and also my granddaughter's side, on the passenger side. And it was why I asked you about that feeling, because when the impact hit my car and my car began to spin, I could smell rubber in the air, the bags, I could hear them coming out. I didn't know where that spin was going to end.
Right.
Even after the spin was over, I knew that over my right shoulder was where my 95-year-old mother, sickly mother, was sitting. And I had such fear at that moment to even turn my head to look to that right side, because I didn't know what to expect. And that fear really messed with me for several days afterwards. And now, reason why I spoke about the post-traumatic stress disorder is I'm experiencing myself a replays of what happened that day. You know, any given time, it was like I realized I was somewhat traumatized over that event. I've been driving ever since a very, very young age. And it's just that when I encountered that the other day, it just can replay in my mind at any given time. But I'm the type of mother, even after losing my sons to violence, I always try to pick something good out of a bad situation. I'm glad that God gave me the strength to do that. So even though my car was considered total, I'm so grateful that my mother is still alive, and my granddaughter, and my daughter, and myself, actually. I mean, freak things happen. I could have got killed too, who knows? For a minute, I thought I smelled a little bit of gas, you know, like, you know. And it was just something that I realized that we don't have to experience a murder to have trauma in our life, or be having the post-traumatic stress disorder after the fact of the event. So, but nothing more on that subject. We're here today about the near-death experiences. And our next guest, I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself and share his experience. And here's our next guest. Do I have your name? Would you tell the audience your name, please?
My name is Leonard Cotton. Grew up in Wilkesboro. I turned 29 in September. I had 2 near-death experiences within a month.
Wow, now that's very close.
This was just happening last year in
Wow.
July and August. I was stabbed in the artery. It hit my artery, but it was a little cut, but it was so big that I had to get 3 blood transfusions, and they literally had to CPR and bring me back because I went out a few times, the doctor said. But about 3 weeks later, I was supposed to go to my appointment for my leg on the 17th, but I got shot 6 times on the 14th, and I didn't even make it to that, and that was really a near-death experience.
Yes.
That day I had went out with my sisters celebrating her boyfriend's birthday, and it was just a regular day, and I was just coming home, and some guy was walking through my alleyway, and he asked me for directions. He asked me where the Exxon was, and as I pointed, I seen him reach his hand up and he just started shooting. And I just was trying to duck and run, but they were hitting me. And I fell, and I basically fell behind my screen door because I couldn't really budge my door open, so I sat behind my screen door when I fell until I heard the rest of the shots was over.
So this was near where you lived? This was like right by your house?
In front of my house. And I was laying there, and I really didn't know what to do for real. Like, I figured if I laid there, I was going to die. So I literally prayed and asked God to give me the strength. And I seen my neighbor's shadow across the street through the window. I got up and I ran across the street and broke his door down. Like, I just bum rushed through his door. And he helped pull me in the house. And my sisters, they dropped me off. Everything had happened so fast that they came back around the corner, and they was looking for me, and they came over and seen me. And I was literally talking to everybody, and my muscles start they just start failing. I stopped moving. I literally went to the bathroom with myself. Like, I went to the bathroom with myself, and I tried to keep my eyes open, but I couldn't. And the last thing I said was just tell my son I'm sorry.
Did they tell you in the hospital, like, where exactly were you shot at when you were shot, like, the 6 times?
Two in each, both, 2 in my back thigh on my right leg, 2 in my calf on my left leg, once in my stomach, and in my rear end.
Wow, that's really hard. And I always wondered, I mean, coming up, I used to hear that whenever a person gets shot, they get thirsty or it burns. I mean, not to gross nobody out, but I wonder, because this will help me in my healing process too, because I often wonder with my 3 sons being shot. My 3rd son was shot with 3 guns around a friend of me's. He knew who shot. I always felt like my son's friends led them to their death. But here you're telling me that you were actually just walking and somebody asked for directions. I mean, someone asked for directions and you get shot. You try to be helpful, but it was harm that came to you. And for you to tell me that you was the first time you was brought back to life, that's a resurrection for me. You know, that's why it was so, I knew your story was going to be very powerful because, and both of your stories, because I feel like y'all both been given a second chance. Well, we're all given another chance every day we open up our eyes. But unfortunately, y'all had to experience some extreme on that. And with you being shot 6 times, I mean, and then you stabbed, shot, stabbed, all of these things, and to be sitting here, you're a miracle in itself. Both of you are a miracle.
My doctors actually, they couldn't believe how I even lived. Like, because I had went to CPR was twice. And that time when I was shot, like, I literally, like, my body I literally shut down. Like, that's why I literally went to the bathroom on myself, like, right where I was. I couldn't hold nothing back no more. And when I woke up, I only seen my mom. She was right by my bedside. She was praying. And the doctor came. My doctor, she actually was the same doctor that did my surgery on my leg.
It was all in the same month. I mean, all this was in the same year, right?
She looked at me and said, like, there must be something great, or you got a God watching over you, like. And I just shook my head, and I looked at my stomach. My stomach was split open. You could actually see the inside. You could see my guts hanging out my stomach and out my leg. My leg was like 6 times the size of what it was, because it was so swollen from all the fluids.
Right.
I couldn't eat, walk, and this was actually like I had got shot that Sunday morning, but I didn't get up till Thursday. I was in a coma. So I didn't get up till
You had a journey. You definitely have something awaiting you. Even today, like I said, to be sitting here today, both hearing your stories, I hear miracles, and it just showed me within myself. I'm grateful that God had me to have this opportunity for them, because that's exactly what I always thought about. I thought about how it would feel to be able to come back. We have a cell phone ringing, but that's okay, folks.
That happens everywhere, even in
Yeah,
church.
we have a little technical difficulty, but I'm quite sure somebody out there in Facebook land is familiar with that
it's
ring.
live, so.
Yeah, it's live. The phone was live. It's off now, folks. But nevertheless, going back to the miracles, God laid upon my heart to have this on Resurrection Monday, simply because, not being, I don't mean to disrespect anybody's belief, but in my life is that we have another chance. We have life. We had a Savior that died for us to have a right to the tree of life, and I'm just grateful that that He gave us a new beginning. We were able to begin. And with these two guests today, you heard their stories. They're definitely in their new beginning stage. And one other thing I want to share about the prayer. Everyone out there heard about prayer changes things. Well, what I heard from our guest today, Valerie, each one about the eyes, how she prayed, and how it changed her situation.
Exactly.
This young man here,
his mother praying over her.
Yeah. Also, as he sat there, as he was laying there, shot with 6 shots in him, he sat there not knowing if he was going to die. And what did you do while you were sitting there?
I prayed for strength.
See, so prayer have a lot to do with it, and so this is just so spiritual today.
It is, and we want to reiterate that word spiritual, because we're not a religious show, even though we have our own beliefs, so we don't try to impose on anyone else. But when it all comes down to it, the stories that always surface, what always surface out of the stories is the spirituality, the prayer, belief that something is more greater than you out here. Because when you're down to your last level, to the lowest of the low, whatever it might be, and even in your highest of your highs, you reach out and you thank someone else, because it's just not all you that's running things out here. But just to see, just to hear you, both of your stories, it was just amazing to us. And like Luana said, she really felt compelled to share the show. And for anyone out there that, has something powerful that they want to share and inspire for someone else, because it's about inspiration too, because we go through, the trials and tribulations of life, but then how do we try to move forward from it? We don't want people to be just stuck where you are, because the different guests that we have on here, including ourselves, we want you to know there is a journey. As long as you are still living and breathing, there's something left for you to do out here. We're all here for a mission. We all have a mission. And I wanted to ask each one of our guests, too, what is something that is definitely important in your life that you share in moving forward from your experience, both of you?
Something that, sorry.
Have you ever sat down and, just thought about the magnitude of what you went through, and you know, then you hear somebody else going through something. Do you share your story with them? Like maybe this might help them
Yeah,
get through
definitely,
it.
definitely. And I always try to share an encouraging word. As I was saying about when I was stabbed and I was thinking that I was going to die, that I had that mind frame that I was worried about reaping what I had sown. And I like to tell other people that I still believe that it's true that you reap what you sow, but as you're reaping what you sown, then that's when you take the time to plant some seeds on some more positive soil. And so you may have to go through that tunnel, but there's light at the end of the tunnel as long as you're still striving towards it, and as long as you understand that if you can help somebody, your living won't be in vain. You don't have to make the choices that I made. You don't have to go through what I've gone through. And I mean, Resurrection Monday would be the perfect time to say that you could resurrect some of those positive relationships.
Amen.
Because at the end of the day, I remember I was mad at my father. I hadn't talked to him in a while, but when I was hurt, that was the first person who I called. And it shouldn't have to take that for you to call on your father, to call on your mother, or to realize who's absolutely there for you. And so
That's
I always try
very
to
strong.
encourage people.
Very strong.
That's very
powerful.
That's a seed there.
Yeah,
That's
truly.
a seed there.
What about you? What is since your life experience, what is something that you give to someone? Even like it could be your kids, family members, friends out in the street, friends at work or something like that. What inspires you now to share with people?
Well, my mom's big on religion. And
Okay.
I kind of am too, so I would just tell people, like, don't give up your faith. Even though things like seem like it could be at its worst, it can always get better, you know, as long as you keep your faith and you believe it, even though you don't see it. Because like I'm still going through the trauma, through the situation. Like I just got out of surgery last month. It was the reversal of my bag. They finally took my bag off. So, and last week they just took about 90 staples out my stomach. And if you would have asked me in November, I thought it was over. Like my life was it was done for real. I had no hope in nothing, but now I'm starting to realize, you know, it's taking time, but, you know, things is coming together real slow. But that's me not giving up and keeping my faith, you know. So if anybody out there, like, they go through any bad experiences, like, you have to look to the greater and just know, like, life is hard. We're going to go through these things, you know. You just got to have your faith and get through.
Thank you so much for sharing.
That's great.
That's some
But you
powerful
know,
words.
that's powerful, and also it's just confirmed what once again, I always talk about what I heard along the way because I take in a lot, and when I need to withdraw it, that's what I do. But I was told how God never told us that we wouldn't go through the storms of life, but He promised us that He would take us through. And I'm a firm believer in, like, I truly believe, Valerie, that anything any of us in life go through, and when God bring you through that thing, I have to put God in it today, you know, and no disrespect towards anyone else, but this is my story. You know what I mean? And today we're on the Relief Talk show, so we talking about it because where I got relief at, because a lot of people, though, well, from many places, but I want to say God was the head of it all, because God, a lot of times I went places and people would meet me and they say, how do you do it? All three of your sons. Because I'm not doing it. I'm watching the movie myself, just as sure as you're watching me now on this TV show. That's how I feel sometimes. I'm watching the movie because I'm amazed at how God takes me through every day. You know, it's like if I was trying to do it myself, I probably would have more of a struggle. But I just ask God to help me stay focused every day. And I got the down days. Hey, I grieve just like anybody else. And with Valerie, when we first met 15 years ago with the Billboard campaign, I couldn't believe how she makes it. With her only son, Robert Dixon, was murdered a month after my son Harry Coward and that's what I
we
always
believe it's God, so
it has
we know
to be.
it.
Like it's not a spirit, just like the Relief Informal Support Group. It's not a religious group, but it's spiritual in many ways, because as the guests or the women would gather together and we sit there, or whoever come who's going through this grief process, they know that they didn't get that far on their own.
Right.
And a lot of things, I do want to say, try it. You may like it, and if it works for you, because it works for me. Because if I would try to take on this thing, I wouldn't be able to do it. So if I didn't full-heartedly believe in God, I know who's carrying me, because I had a very hard time yesterday. But see, the thing about it is, I knew that storm was coming, and I knew today is a new day. Today is a new day. We go through things, but we got to reach forward. Like our future is like a running van just waiting on us, And if I can make it through the night, I can see a brighter day, and that's how I feel about it. Because I had a very dark day yesterday.
Yeah, we definitely have those days, and it's going to be those days coming too. You know what I mean? And so I always share too with people, like, life's going to keep piling on stuff, so you got to find a way to fizzle some of that stuff out, because more stuff coming in. And if you just try to hold all that messiness that's coming in, you're just going to be a mess. You're going to explode on somebody, yourself, hurt yourself, or something like that. And so we have to find our outlet. We have to find our way of
even if it's therapy.
Yeah,
I forgot, did any of you
very
go
important.
through therapy from your experiences? Did y'all have to go there, or?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's because a lot of times
that's the key, and that's
therapy,
a lot of times African Americans we really don't. We go, I ain't gonna see no shrink, and it's like a stigmatism. But honestly, it's just like even when you feel comfortable enough to talk to your best friend about things. You know what I mean? This therapist, they have special skills, that can help you pull out your own strengths that you don't even know you have. And they can see that in your conversation, just a regular conversation. And when you leave there, you feel a little bit stronger, like, wow, they gave me a little bit of tools I didn't even know I had, you know what I mean? And even some of your friends can do that, but they are trained to identify some things that help you get through your trauma and get through your grief, and let you know that you're going to have some triggers, some things that take you back there every now and then, and how you can work your way through. I always share the story about, my son, he loved, Quaker oatmeal's apple and cinnamon. He loved the apples. I couldn't come home from the grocery store without that being in one of the bags. And so he come home and don't see that bag. Mom, where's the oatmeal at? So when he passed, like, I had bought a Quaker oatmeal, just regular, because that was my regular shop, and I had brought it. And I'm like, I brought this, my baby's not even here anymore. And to this day, even when I go down the aisle, like, I know certain Giant Eagles where they keep it at. Like, if one's in the bread aisle, I'm gonna give them a bread, because I'm gonna make me a sandwich. So I'm gonna give them a bread. But over here, I see the little green label. I can see it out the corner of my eye, and that's like a trigger for me. Like, all the thoughts start coming back about my baby. And it's but then I work, find out ways to work through that. And at one time I said I'm gonna face it head on. Since the apple and cinnamon, they done had some new flavors out since 16 years ago. And I was like, oh, I didn't know they had that flavor. But it's so funny because my friend now loves apple and cinnamon oatmeal, and had no idea that was. It's just really weird. Now I'm buying apple and cinnamon oatmeal again, but
all over again.
Yeah, all over again. But you find ways to work through your triggers and your trauma, and find ways to relieve your pressures and your anxiety and all that kind of stuff like that. And
one thing I learned after all of the turns of events, I ended up starting a nonprofit in California before I left my home city. It was called Colors, and we did a lot of counseling. We went into a lot of neighborhoods, talking to a lot of kids, and dealt with a lot of people who were dealing with grief. And so I had picked up some skills from that. And I'd also learned from my husband. Matter of fact, my husband was telling me last week that the way he deals with grieving is he stops and he thinks about, not reflect on what actually happened, but he'll stop and take a second to catch his breath. And when you do, and he says to focus on things that never really matter to you. Feel your heart beating, feel your shirt touching your clothes.
Yeah.
Feel your hair blowing in the wind. And he was like, and just
Yes.
stop and reflect, and it calms you down. Your heart resumes back to regular beats. You calm down, and it just really helps. Like when
Wow, I like
Well,
that
you
advice
heard
right
that,
there.
folks. You heard that. I'm going to try that myself.
Exactly.
Starting today. So I would like to say thanks for joining us for our special day after Easter, Easter Monday show. Be sure and join us next time. And nevertheless, remember, along with what our guest said here today, to try to help, those emotions. But remember, if you want to heal or begin to heal on your healing process, just to begin it, you must recognize every lingering inward emotional feeling, and then you'll be on your way. And I believe as you go, and I'm going to close it out with this, that God will strengthen you every step of the way.
Thank you for joining us today.
Goodbye.